Hello and welcome to Forgotten Video Store, the podcast you hopefully won't forget. I'm David Murto. I'm your host, your ghost host. My guarantee on the show is that the movies we cover are not available to stream anywhere, and you, the listener, have never seen any of these movies. And if you have seen one of the movies that I cover and you can prove that you saw it before I talked about it on this podcast, then you'll win a fabulous prize, which is a $25 gift card to Fry's Electronics. My guest for this episode is an experienced and accomplished projectionist for the American Cinemateque, which in my opinion is probably LA's best film screening series. He's also a good friend. Sam Rodriguez is here.
Hi, David. Good to be here. Hi, listeners.
So Sam, what kind of shit do you get up to?
Well, we already basically covered it all. I am a projectionist for the American Cinemateque, working hard to run the movies as competently as possible, despite my obvious visual impairments that make it very hard to focus most celluloid film.
Yeah, look at those peepers. One's pointed one way, the other's pointed the other way.
It's a very unlikely gaze to be controlling those old machines, but I do what I can, and people seem to appreciate the effort.
What does 3D look like to you?
Well, did you ever have, you talked about sleep paralysis with Mike. Sleep paralysis by way of ayahuasca.
I didn't, but you saying that is painting a picture for me.
Excellent.
So like Avatar is kind of like those blue things are like coming at you left, right, and center.
Oh, keep those demons away from my crooked eyes, please.
Cool. So American Cinemateque, you get to do like lots of cool movies, lots of cool events. Of all the many like filmmakers you've worked with, who's the nastiest freak?
Who's the nastiest freak?
Yeah.
Michael Mann.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, that guy. Crazy. I mean, we were running Heat together, and the heat was real.
Oh, nice. I just rewatched Manhunter. Have you seen that one?
Oh, yeah, that's excellent. Yeah,
that was really good.
We've run that on 70. His print.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Isn't that fun? You're a big movie guy, right? And what kind of movies are you into?
I'm like 5'10". I'm not that big. But yeah, I'm a movie guy.
We went and saw a screening of 2001 at the Egyptian together on 70 millimeter, and that was a lot of fun. That's your like top movie.
Top movie for sure. That was a big time deal for me to be able to see.
And
that.
You screened it also.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal for me to have seen it back then, and then I continue to project movies, and then that's been like the movie I've projected the most over the years by far. Yeah.
Always sells tickets, I would think.
Always sells tickets, always reliable. You know, Nolan did his quote unquote unrestored version, so got a lot of play when that happened. So I'm always running that thing, and I just love it.
So today you came over to my part of LA, North Hollywood, and we went to the Forgotten Video Store to look through some videos.
Yeah, we did.
Had a good time, and I always like to let my guests pick out a movie, and you picked out 3 movies, and you had me make the final decision.
I did.
But it was a VHS tape of something called Kill Swarm. Mm-hmm. And this was a TV movie that aired on Fox in 1996. It was directed by Gary Sherman, who directed Deathline, the scary movie that takes place in the London Underground. Okay. He also directed Poltergeist 3.
Wait. Gary Sherman. He was my teacher.
He
was literally my teacher in film school.
Really?
Yeah. I had him as an instructor. Gary Sherman, Poltergeist 3. I had him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You went to Columbia?
I went to Columbia College, Chicago.
This is big news. How was he as a professor?
Cool guy. I mean, his biggest claim to fame was Poltergeist 3, so that was what it was. But it seemed like he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get the reins of a Spielberg-affiliated franchise unless you know your stuff.
Exactly, right. You're stepping into some big shoes, so you got to know something.
That's awesome. So Kill Swarm stars Dave Coulier, who we'll remember as Uncle Joey from Full House, also the subject of Alanis Morissette's You Oughta Know.
Yeah.
Famously went down on him in a theater.
Famously. Although for me, obviously Full House, but he used to host a show on Nickelodeon that I was obsessed with as a kid called Out of Control.
Was Out of Control?
It was like a little faux talk show because he was at a desk. He has his name tag on the desk, said Dave, and they did like a lot of like man in the street pieces. and there were some crazy characters. It was like a little crazy talk show for kids, out of control.
Oh, that's fun.
I think it's mostly talking about forgotten things.
Yeah,
but I just want to plug that.
That's awesome. And then Kill Swarm also stars Suzanne Summers, who we'll remember as Chrissy Snow on Three's Company, and also famously the pitch woman for Thigh Master.
Did you have a Thigh Master at home?
I think so. It's like got two like big weird rings, and it goes, and you have to really push to.
Yeah, the standard flagship Thigh Master. It was the blue,
like
blue
a butterfly pattern kind of.
Yeah, like a blue butterfly, and then it had like a big tight coil. It was like a red center on it,
and you're supposed to hump it.
You were supposed to do obscene things with it, and I mean, I had the hulking thighs of an Olympian at like 7-8 years old, thanks to that thing. So
I just used it with my arms, which is how I got these. Hey, the mailman. Thank you. That was the mailman dropping in, guest appearance.
Mail call.
We should have got the mailman on mic. So I normally ask the guests, like, why'd you pick this movie? But why did I pick this movie? I don't know. It looked cool. Looks badass. Kill Swarm.
Well, I mean, you were there in the 90s, right?
I was there, yeah.
You remember the whole Killer Bee panic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was going to hit any day, and we'll get into it a little bit. But yeah, I remember hearing about Killer Bees, all anyone could talk about. They tried to reboot it with Murder Hornets recently.
That's true. Mostly unsuccessfully, but
yeah.
So that's why this movie called to me.
Should we get into kind of what the movie's all about?
I'm dying to.
So it starts, and it's like the Chiron says Brazil, 1956.
I'm already thinking Nazis.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah,
like the boys from Brazil.
Yeah, exactly. I'm immediately very worried.
And I don't think they're explicitly Nazis, but they are scientists living in Brazil, so it easily could have been.
That's true. It could be some unspoken thing here. But yeah, we're talking Brazilian scientists at least.
There's someone, an important Brazilian figure, and everyone's speaking English, which I think is just like network TV. You're not going to have like Portuguese with subtitles.
Sure, I'm not going to expect Portuguese.
But they're showing some important figure around the lab, and the guy's like, this is the team that studies bees. You could call them the B team. And like that joke only works in English. So
maybe they are in fact speaking English,
yeah,
even in their world.
So, and they're showing bees, and they're doing some experiments, like they imported African bees and they're crossbreeding them with the bees that they have here in the Americas. And they are like especially vicious bees.
Right.
Revenge motivated bees. I don't know why I guess for science, you don't have a why. You're just trying to gather as much information as possible.
This is science at its best. Just reckless, wild experimentation, playing God.
In the tradition of Dr. Frankenstein. So it also happens to be, how's it called? Carnival?
It is Carnival.
Yeah, so it happens to be Carnival, and there's like, the people with the big costumes and the big heads, and
they show, like what clearly looks like some stock footage of Carnival for a little bit to kind of sort of set the scene.
They got the insert shots of some Carnival goers getting a little too rowdy, and they kind of are running through the streets, and then they bust through the lab. Which
we should say, why was this lab so permeable on the main street of Carnival? But it was like literally, it's just people like vendors selling hot meat from carts immediately outside, I guess, the top secret Brazilian genetic testing lab. Very short-sighted.
So these Carnival goers are getting too rowdy, and they push through, and then all of a sudden they're running through this lab, and they smack right into the glass, and the bee team is like, my bees, and the bees start escaping from the lab and flying loose, and then your title screen comes up. Kind of the bees kind of like swarm and become the letters of the title.
The title.
Kill Swarm, and I thought that was really cool. How'd they train the bees to do that?
I think it might have been an effect. I could be wrong.
Okay. And then it's cool, as the opening credits are going, you see like a map of the Americas, and with a little like a ticker with the years going by showing the spread, because we're led to believe like these killer bees that escape from the lab are reproducing, and they're covering more and more territory.
Yeah, so it starts in the 50s in Brazil.
Yeah.
So over like the ensuing decades, gets a little farther up to like Central America by like the 70s or the 80s.
Into Mexico.
Yeah.
Into Texas in the very early 90s. And then then it's in Southern California where we live, and the year clicks over to 1996, and then it gets big, and that's real effective because that's present day. Like if you're watching this movie when it came out, did you watch this movie when it came out?
I definitely remember I saw this. Details had eluded me, but Fox conspiratorial movies of the week. Yeah. I was there for.
This was X-Files era, was it not?
This was absolutely X-Files era. Fox was always Fox. They love pushing a good conspiracy. And so, or just general fear mongering. So the idea of them producing this movie about how afraid we were to be about this swarm of bees coming up from the southern border is just so classic Fox.
Yeah, there is subtext that, this literally happened in real life. There were Africanized bees.
That's true.
That came up through Mexico. But the way it's presented in the movie, with numerous characters saying they're coming up through the Mexican border and Africanized.
It is as ugly as it sounds.
Do you think a wall would have stopped them?
How high can they fly? Is there an upper limit to how high they can go? Do their brains start wigging out at a certain altitude? Do they explode? I don't know.
These are the question. This is why we need science.
This is why we need science.
But anyway, after the opening credits, we're kind of into the main story of the movie, and we meet our heroes, played by Dave Coulier and Suzanne Summers. And they're mom and dad. They got 2 kids, kind of the classic nuclear family, a little boy, a little girl.
The boy is Spencer Breslin. I don't know who the girl is. Do you know who the girl is?
I didn't even realize it was Spencer Breslin. Yeah. What's he from?
He was in The Kid. He was in The Happening later on. He's real young
here. The
Kid
being the movie with Bruce Willis?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's super young.
Is he related to Abigail Breslin?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So we meet these characters, and Dave Coulier and Suzanne Somers are kind of arguing in the kitchen, and because Dave Coulier has quit his job because he was being sexually harassed at work. It's kind of they want to show that it can happen to men too. Like men can be sexually harassed at work also.
Yeah, this movie, in addition to being about the impending threat of bees, wants to say something about discrimination toward men in the workplace.
So Dave Coulier has quit his job, but he has the big interview coming up, and he's made it through the first stage of this interview. But he says, I got the big in-person interview, and they keep on referencing the big interview. And the big interview, we learn, is in San Diego, California. And where are they in the beginning of the movie?
I got the sense that they are in Florida.
Oh, so this
because
is
we're seeing palm trees.
I figured that was just because they filmed it in LA.
I think most of the references are to Southern things. So this seems like it's a cross-country trip, because certainly later on we see some desert landscape that we don't see at the start or the end. So it reads to me as coast to coast.
Yeah, so he's like, we got to pack up. And
the conceit is that they're going to make a trip of it, that they never get out as a family. And so the fact that
because he's been so committed to his work in the past, this job that's taken so much from him and hasn't given him anything in return except for sexual harassment.
I think, because it's Suzanne who says we should go together. That wasn't the dad's idea. It was her idea.
And so they all pile into, it looks like a Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra, which is a fine car.
One thing that we learned about the making of this is that the production team was largely that of Walker Texas Rangers production team. So despite this being coast to coast, a lot of the events take place in Texas.
Which makes sense. It's a very large state.
Sure. Right. So, they see the Alamo. They're on a dude ranch somewhere, petting cows. The kid's on a pony or something.
A lot of filler scenes before we get into the meat of the movie.
A lot of filler. Well, because they have these 2 comic actors. So they try to have, especially Suzanne Summers, be pretty silly.
She was like the ditzy blonde on.
Yeah. She was Chrissy Snow on Three's Company back in the day, and then she was the mom on Step by Step, probably when this was made.
So they're staying the night at a hotel, and the kids are out in the pool. That's when you first get you get a look at the bees, and they do extreme close-ups on these bees, and these bees, I don't know if they added eyebrows to them somehow, but the bees look mad, and they start coming by, and it's the kids are in the pool with other kids, and the other kids start to get stung and say, "Yo, what was that?" and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely played for drama because the kids are going under the water to avoid these bees that now seem to be flying in. You know, you have the drama of like these kids are holding their breath under the water for as long as they can, and then they're popping up and gasping, and then it's suddenly bzzz, they're being attacked immediately.
Mm-hmm. So they get stung a few times, but they don't get.
Yeah, there's a handful of bees. There's not a whole swarm. There's like a few bees in the air just flying around the pool at that time, and they keep going and going and going at the kids.
But Dave Coulier and Suzanne Summers are having an intimate moment in their hotel room as this is all going down.
Right.
But they start hearing some screaming from outside.
And when they do, their kids come running up and into the room, and they're like, you know, what happened? What happened? And they tell them, oh, no, we were stung by these bees. They kept stinging us. And Dave Coulier, he's like, that's not possible. The bees can only sting you once, and then they die.
Right, because it like rips out their spine or something.
Yeah. And so he's so adamant. He's like, basically, these kids are like, have just been traumatized. Like, regardless of what happened to them, they're like at their wits' end. And he's like, that's not possible. Like, dude, settle down. Your kids are trying to tell you what happened.
Dave Coulier and Suzanne Summers have not seen the bees.
No. They've
think
heard
their
commotion.
kids are just being dramatic.
Yeah, exactly. They don't believe what they're saying.
Suzanne Summers eventually gets the kids calmed down.
She's a hairdresser?
Yeah, she's a hairdresser, and she brought her supplies with her for some reason.
Yeah.
And she's like, and maybe this is calming to the kids to get their hair like washed and treated and stuff. And so she's working on their hair, and they seem to like it. And then they're all happy family again, joking around. They turn on the TV and they're watching something. I wasn't familiar with this. What was it?
It was A Current Affair with Maury Povich, the news magazine program.
And why would Suzanne Summers think that the kids would like that?
She just turned on the TV for them. Just let's watch some TV, and that was just what was on. It was
okay, and it was like a synergy. It was like a synergy thing because it's like a Fox
it was
TV
a Fox show. Yeah.
Okay, so they pack back into the Cutlass Sierra. They're driving along. You ever been in a Cutlass Sierra?
I haven't. I've been in Oldsmobiles. I've been in like Continentals. I've been in old person cars. I know the feeling. They do weird things.
Oldsmobiles were a great old person car because it had old in the name.
Yeah, it was the giveaway. Mm-hmm. You know, they used to have an old slogan like back in the 80s. It was like, "Come visit your gallant men of olds." But they doubled down on the fact that they were a car for old people, a literal Oldsmobile.
So anyway, they're driving in the Oldsmobile, and to kind of prep for the big interview, Suzanne Summers is like quizzing Dave Coulier on different stuff, and they haven't explained what he's interviewing for.
At this point, I would have no idea what it is that he does for a living.
Suzanne Summers is like quizzing him, and I had no idea what she was talking about. She goes, Beringe Graveri, and he goes, and then she goes, Eunectes Murinus, and he goes,
and she's like reading out of like a World Book encyclopedia or something.
Yeah, it was very strange. It sounded like Harry Potter shit. You know?
Yeah, like enchantments. So yeah, one of the kids looks out the window and there's like a bee keeping pace with the car, and then like another bee joins up. And then it's like a little swarm, and there's like a big swarm like keeping up with the car. And then it's just like, you know, when he's like about to signal somebody, like they veer off in another direction.
And he's going, Mom, Dad, and Dave Coulier is like, shh, I'm doing my preparations.
Yeah.
He's like, but, shh, I'm doing my preparations. So at this point, Suzanne Summers and Dave Coulier have not seen a bee.
No, as far as they know, they live in a bee-less world.
So then the family stops in Houston, and they go to the Houston Astrodome to see, I guess it's the Astros play
in
ball
the
game.
Astrodome.
Yeah, and at first I'm like, oh, they're just using stock footage of a game or whatever, because you see the game play, and then you cut to the family, and it's kind of a close-up, and there's not that many extras around them.
Right.
And so I thought they were faking it, but I was quickly proven wrong. They're doing like kind of a gimmick in between innings where they're shooting hot dogs into the stands.
Oh, right, with the hot dog cannons.
Yeah, the hot dog cannons, which is very cool, and like people are getting hit in the eye and stuff. And it's very funny.
Love it.
A lot of slapstick opportunities right there. But then, like, you see a hot dog flying, and the kid's like, I got it, I got it, I got it. And then instead, a bunch of bees fly into his face.
Which was bound to happen.
Homeboy gets stung up, and then more and more bees start arriving, flooding the field. And then there's an excellent action sequence on the field starring, I don't know if it's the real Houston Astros, but some actors playing the ball players perhaps, but they all had their baseball bats out, swinging wildly, gloves, trying to catch the bees.
And I just want to say, like, it does sound like, maybe we're skipping over things. It escalated quickly. Like, it's stupid Coulier Summers family banter for like a few seconds. And then as soon as that kid tries to catch the hot dog and is stung, it is all bets are off. Chaos.
It's actually pretty horrific. People are getting trampled.
Oh, yeah. People are screaming. There's just a lot of general, like, screaming and hand waving and running. People are hitting each other. People are, like, really just kind of turning into animals at the drop of a hat at this point.
Then it is really distasteful as someone falls dead right beside Dave Coulier, and he looks down and says, he didn't earn his stripes.
Yeah. I like this movie. Like, don't get me wrong, I like it. Sometimes I hate this movie. I hated this movie at that point.
You don't like the bee puns?
I don't like the bee puns. The bee puns are too much. And this movie loves making the stupid bee puns. Stupid bee puns. Excuse me. I have a strong opinion. The chaos is unfurling. And like you say, we see the players. I don't know baseball. You don't know baseball. They look like they were real people. Mm-hmm. And they're like swinging into the swarm with their bats.
I wonder if Fox was like airing MLB games at the time or something. And this was another.
The whole movie strikes me as a synergy ploy for sure. Because you already have a current affair and now probably MLB on Fox. So this is just going down and the family just kind of gets out of there. Mm-hmm. They just kind of like snake their way through every...
It's cool, and you get like a lot of extras acting, like people really going for...
Yeah. People stumbling in front of the camera, just going, holding their face.
Yeah, and they do like these insert shots that are, I think they were maybe real, of like real bees stinging people, and it's like, it's pretty horrific to see like 10, 20 bees on someone's arm and just like...
That was really gross because it looks like the people are being stung. Like you see the bee and then it goes away and there's an immediate like red welt with like a blood dot in it. Like it's gross.
Yeah, and we quickly learn that these bees love to attack eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, and so people screaming, that's no good. They're going in your mouth to sting you up. They're hitting your eyes. It's horrific.
They have that one shot of it's like from the bee's point of view, and it's like
it's kind of like Jaws.
Yeah, and then, like people are running, and like somebody's just like standing screaming. Like that's the one person like not like running away. They're just like standing screaming, and then the camera like goes into their open mouth. Mm-hmm. And it's
yeah, that was cool. And then that person like bam falls down dead.
Well, yeah,
stung from the inside.
Stung from the inside.
He probably stung his heart.
That's metal.
So Dave Coulier and Suzanne Summers and the Breslin kid and the girl whose name we don't know, are back in the Sierra.
Yeah, they're in the Sierra.
And the kids are like, "We told you, Daddy, and you didn't listen." And he's like, "Shut up, my interview."
He's still going on about the interview. Yeah, he's like, "I need to think. I have my interview coming up, and I can't have this stress." It's like, dude, something's going on right now. I think it's a little more important than your stupid, amorphous, nebulous interview. But in any event, they're just like booking it out of there.
Yeah, they're like, let's put some distance between us and the bee swarm. And so he's like, they had been planning to stop at a hotel for the night after the baseball game, but he's like, I'm going to drive through the night.
There's a dissolve, like, now it's late at night.
Right, yeah, the kids are like dozed in the back.
Everybody's asleep except the dad.
So Coulier's like, I gotta stop for a coffee. I can't keep my eyes open. So they stop at a Buc-ee's, and he's like, okay, I'll be right back. He goes in, and you're like, you're expecting bees any second now, right? Oh, at least I was.
Right.
But this one, it's more about the weird attendant in the Buc-ee's who like almost mirrors the Buc-ee's logo with the big.
He's got a big, stupid face. He's got like obvious fake buck teeth just sticking out of the front of his face.
And he starts asking questions like, oh, you got kids? Oh, you got a wife? Like all this kind of stuff. You think he's just being friendly or whatever.
I didn't think he was being friendly. Like from the jump, I thought he was a weirdo.
But then the big reveal is like Coulier like past this open door and it's like it says employees only or whatever. And there's the employee back there in his underwear tied up. And you're like, oh, something's gone down with this weird Buc-ee's guy.
Well, and then that's when you see that it's not just a guy just tied up alone in there. He's in there with bees. There are bees' nests in the supply closet or whatever break room that he's tied up in. This one employee is subjecting this other guy to bee stings from these bees.
He's allied himself with the bees somehow. And he's like luring people in to become victims of bees.
Yeah.
So when Coulier like goes to ring up his coffee, the Buc-ee's employee is like, oh, you're the 100th customer of the day. You win a big prize. You and your whole family need to come in here and I'll show you
the big prize.
The big prize.
Yeah. This is the first evidence that these aren't your average bees, that they are having an effect because like the guy makes sort of a sweeping motion, and when he does, we see Dave doesn't. His entire arm is all bit.
Stings.
It's completely stung up.
So these are like mind control bees?
Yes.
Or at least you become so demented after there are bee stings that you start to serve the bees.
Right. It has some effect on your brain chemistry to where, yes, you are staunchly pro-bee.
And was this true of the real killer bees that came up?
Certainly not. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
This was made up for the movie, perhaps?
This was surely made up, unless this world is even more hellish than we realize.
Dave Coulier's basically like, oh, this sounds great. I love prizes, which is not something they established earlier in the movie. But he goes out and gets his family, wake up. We won the big prize. We won the big prize. Come on, Bucky's gonna... And he refers to the employee as Bucky.
Yeah.
He's like, Bucky in there is gonna hook us up with the big prize.
The big prize.
And they all go in.
The one girl is suspicious. Only their daughter is like, Dad, this is weird. I want to go to bed. And he's like, no, we won. I deserve this. I've got my big interview coming up, and I deserve a win.
So Dave Coulier is headed up to here with his daughter, and he's dragging her bodily back into the Buc-ee's. And the Buc-ee's guy is showing them, let me show you your big prize. Takes him towards the back, swings the door open, and who'd have guessed? Thousands of bees.
The prize was bees. Surprise.
He's cackling. The kids are screaming.
And yeah, because there's already a body in this room. There's this guy who's tied up in this room full of bees, and you see like these like hornets' nests, or there's not hornets, that's bees beehives. Yeah, just lining the entire like ceiling of this room, this supply closet or whatever it was.
Sometimes in scenes like these, I'm like, how did they get the Buc-ee's product placement tie-in? Because the movie is not coming in in a pro Buc-ee's position.
No, I would think the worst of Buc-ee's after seeing this.
That's true, but the one positive you see is that the kids are looking through the aisles and like they say, "Oh, what a selection!"
Yeah. The boy says, "What great stuff!"
And at a fair price.
So I guess right there that
probably passed
the bare minimum, the Buc-ee test.
So Dave Coulier and Suzanne Summers and the Breslin kid are basically worthless at this point. They're freaking out, running around. The bees are chasing them. It's almost like one of those Scooby-Doo slapstick chases where they're going aisle to aisle.
Yeah. They're being chased to and fro by the bees.
And the daughter has the presence of mind to stop by the cold case where she picks up a couple of tall boys.
And they literally have a music cue of like, meow, 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 like it's a beer commercial or something.
Yeah, very cool.
Uh-huh.
Did you notice what kind of beer it was?
Sure, it was Budweiser.
Budweiser.
Yep, king of beers.
And the bees were like, we prefer Buzzweiser.
No, they weren't. Be quiet. Be quiet.
Now you're doing it. So the girl like shakes up the tall boys, takes one in each hand, shakes them up, and then does like a cool move where she like flips them, grabs like each one in one hand and cracks them both at the same time.
That's so cool.
And they shoot off like they're missiles.
It's so cool.
And there's bud spraying all around, and the bees do not like it.
They can't handle all that cold, refreshing bud.
Yeah, is it the alcohol, do you think?
It's too cold and refreshing.
They prefer a hot climate. That is true. These killer bees do not survive in the colder parts of the country.
Oh, okay. Well, so then this is an obviously well thought out,
Well
defense.
researched. So this buys them enough time to get back in the Sierra, and
At this point, I'd really just be myself, just sticking inside that stupid Sierra.
yeah, you would think that until the next sequence in the movie.
Yeah.
When it's the heat of day in Texas, the summer presumably, and he's like, oh, let me turn on the AC, turns the vents all the way up.
May as well call it AB.
Oh, God. Oh, God. You know what's coming through those vents.
They suck up a swarm.
Then they're in the car with the bees. Coulier's swerving left, right, and center. He's going between cactuses in the desert.
And I mean, I didn't expect it, but right there in the car, they fucking get Suzanne Summers. They get her.
Yeah, and this is horrifying. This is really where the stakes of the movie reach a new level.
Yeah. She flails about for a while, spraying hairspray in every which direction.
And it's not a glamorous death either. It's really pathetic.
yeah.
Because the makeup on her is gross.
And she's like buckled in the whole time.
She's like gurgling. And actually what gets the bees finally to leave the car, the air conditioning got too cold for them.
It's they're flying around, and they keep
You see like ice crystals start gathering on their wings.
Yeah, and then
like,
we see shots of the air blowing out of the vents.
And they have like string tied to the vent so you can visually see that there's air coming out of it.
Right.
That's the convention.
And yeah, then they all just kind of like fall to the floor of the cabin.
And then the girl can stomp them to death. But and then they're saying goodbye to their mother and Mom, you can't leave us, Mom.
They were probably just taken aback by the fact that she died despite having exquisite developed thighs. Like in the end, they did nothing to save her.
But they did do a close up on her thighs, like covered in bee stings, to kind of one last plug for the Thigh Master.
Yeah, synergy up the wazoo in this movie.
The kids are like, "Stop the car, for God's sake, Dad!" And he's like, "I'm not missing the big interview."
He's more committed than ever to making the big interview.
Well, now he's a single father. He's got to get a good job to support these two kids.
That's true.
So in the next sequence, you see them pulling in. There's a big sign that says, welcome to San Diego, California's very warm city. And so you know the bees are going to like it there because they like a warm climate. We've learned about that. And he arrives at the interview, and that's when you finally realize he's interviewing at the San Diego Zoo.
The world famous San Diego Zoo.
So he arrives at the San Diego Zoo. He's talking with the intake guy there. He's like, yeah, I'm here for my interview. It's like, what's your experience before? And he then reveals his old job was at SeaWorld in Florida, but he had to leave because he was being sexually harassed by the dolphins.
So at this point, a lot of Coulier's attitude makes a lot of sense. This is a man who is haunted by his past. He's been through things.
I was Googling this, and it is a real phenomenon. Dolphins like to pull that kind of stuff with people.
It's a fascinating world out there.
That's nature. Then there's the interview sequence, which a lot of non-bee related content goes on. He's just demonstrating his intelligence about different animals. He knows the Latin names for a bunch of these different creatures.
Right, that's the one thing we saw him practice before, so he knows that.
What do you mean?
The Latin names that Suzanne Summers was throwing them.
Oh, that's what that was.
Yeah.
Oh, I just put that together.
Yeah.
I thought she was just like talking nonsense.
No, that she was quizzing him on the Latin names of the animals.
Oh.
It was, I mean, it was a weird thing for them to practice, but it seems like it was prescient.
Oh yeah, because like at the zoo, like I guess to work at the zoo, you got to know the Latin names of the animals. So he's aces that part, but he's kind of got a shitty attitude, so they don't seem to like him that much.
Yeah,
but
he's coming in hot from his whole experience. He just dropped his dead wife on the side of the road some 20 hours ago. So
as he's doing this interview, his daughter's like trying to come up and interrupt, basically, and she's like, "Excuse me," and Coulier's like trying to push her aside, and he's like, finally, what? And the guy's like, oh, who's this? And it's like, this is my daughter, like this kind of stuff. And the daughter's like, do you have any insect experts at the zoo? And he's like, well, yeah, we got, it's not the focus of the zoo, but we have an insect exhibit and we have a very knowledgeable insect man. And she's like, great. And she grabs her brother's hand and they go visit the insect man. And he's played by
Brent Spiner. TV's Data.
Yeah, Data. And I think maybe even the same year, Independence
Day. It was a big year for Brent.
So he's a entomologist.
An expert on the origins of names.
That's what I thought too, but apparently it's a bug man. He's Bugman.
Bugman.
They talk to Bugman and they start describing what they've seen with all these bee attacks, and he knows a lot about it. And they're like, these bees have been attacking, and he's like, I feared this day would come. They've been spreading all over North America, and now they finally reached the United States.
He's very worried.
But he gives them some good information, like flailing your arms or like swatting the bees just makes it worse. They'll attack hard.
Who knew?
And he's like, actually, if you kill one, that releases like this alarm scent pheromone that actually attracts more and more bees to attack.
So this is a helpful guy to meet. Just too bad it took this long to meet him. They're getting what seems like invaluable information here at the end from Dr. Data. And then as they are, like, the shadow sort of moves into the space.
It's like, is that a storm cloud?
Yeah, and so they kind of look, and you start to hear sort of the murmurs or whatever. And so they rush out, and everybody's sort of gathered around outside in the zoo looking up at the sky. And this swarm of bees that is filling the sky is just coming their way.
It's like biblical.
Yeah. It's like a biblical plague of bees.
And the guy who plays Data is like, no, not here, not now. He's been afraid that this would happen for decades because he's followed the story of the bees.
Right, and he knows that they're not ready, that they're not anywhere near ready for what's about to happen.
And actually, the production values on this part of the movie are astonishing because the bees start attacking the rhino enclosure. The rhinos get stung over and over, and then they start losing their damn minds. And it's much like the Buc-ee's guy. It seems to like turn them into evil versions of rhinos.
The movie is consistent here. Like they do show, like, if you don't get killed by the bees, you'll become crazy from the bees.
And then Data, and this is kind of a weird part, he says, like, once the Africanized bees sting you to a certain degree, you become Africanized.
Which is very strange. I mean, we're here at the zoo. A lot of these animals are from
They are
Africa.
African animals anyway.
Yeah, so the idea of them becoming any more Africanized. But hey, I didn't write the movie.
Yeah, and they sting the giraffes, and that's cool because, like, the giraffes are so huge they actually like leap over the fences of the enclosure.
The leaping giraffes are crazy. Yeah. I've never seen that before.
They start stomping on some of the guests at the zoo. Bam, bam, splish, splash.
And this is really where I start to question, like, what is real in this movie? Because...
You mean practical effects?
Yeah, practical effects. Because, like, I see buckets of blood that look as pulpy and disgusting as anything I've ever seen on screen.
And this was network television.
This was a network movie. So I'm very worried for it to look this good.
I did not see the No Animals Were Harmed logo or anything like that.
Oh, you were looking.
I was looking for it in the credits. I did not see that anywhere. I think they killed a ton of bees and maybe some precious creatures.
They definitely killed bees. Bees died by the thousands on this shoot. Like, you see their little bodies. Like, some of those shots of the swarms are fake, but, like, there are very real bees writhing on the ground.
Swatted, yeah.
You taught us better than this, Gary.
So the son and daughter go back to the car. That's when the daughter gets out her deceased mother's hairdressing kit. And she's got different, hairsprays and potions and stuff. And she's kind of using that as her defense against the bees when they come to you.
Yeah, suddenly it's like mom's salon stuff looks like gun cases or something. Like, this is the equipment that's gonna save the day here.
She's got like one of those, the little towels that they put around your neck, but she ties it around like a headband. Looks real cool.
She's got a hair dryer that seems to work without being plugged in, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's just like roasts the bees. And that's real cool. They like kind of disintegrate almost to nothing.
Yeah, you just kind of hear them burn and get crispy.
So she can defend herself against the bees, kind of, but not against the rampaging beasts.
No, that's something else altogether. So that's where you really see the fact that this was done with the Walker Texas Ranger production crew sort of come into play, because just as things are getting all too real and all too crazy, who shows up but Mr. Chuck Norris himself, riding through on like a Jeep or something.
Yeah.
And he's just like firing into the air.
Kind of a Chuck Ex Machina situation. But he knows how to control these animals.
I don't think he shoots at any of them. He basically just makes a lot of noise.
And tackles some. He tackles a
gorilla. Yeah, oh, it was a rhino. Okay. Yeah. Who tackled the gorilla? Was it the girl?
Somebody that was the little girl.
Okay, right. Because the gorilla's just like, oof.
Yeah.
He just falls on his butt and is like, oof. And then it's just like, it just gets up and walks away.
Changed his mind. It seems like Chuck Norris is going to get this whole situation under control, but he basically gets the wild animals.
Yeah, he just ends like the stampede.
Right. But then the bees attack. The swarm swarms him. And he doesn't go down like a chump. I'll give him the credit there. He, keeps trying to stand after every time he's knocked down. And he's like, but then more and more bees. Suddenly, like, he looks like he's made out of bees. There's so many bees over him.
And then he just kind of like melts into the ground.
And then once they go away, there's like nothing. Like a little bit of dust maybe, but that's it. And the little girl's like, oh man, I guess it's time for plan B.
Yes, she does.
And so they're like, we got to get back to that entomologist. And so they go, and it's the guy who plays Data. And
so he's just coming out of like his little backstage area at the zoo, and he's got like a fire extinguisher on him, and he's like, come on, you SOBs. And just like, it's desperation at that point. And so he gets swarmed and he gets stung a million times. And then they just kind of like, those bees just sort of go away at that point. They just sort of like leave him for dead there on the ground.
And his he does the same voice he did in Independence Day, like as he's getting strangled by the
Yeah. Same kind of voice, yeah. And he's there on the ground, and like the kids are running up to him, and he's like, you have to use smoke.
Well, first he goes, smoke. And the kid's like, I think my dad has some cigarettes. And he's like, no, use smoke. So they run back to where Dave Coulier was having his interview, and he's basically just cowering under the desk at this point.
He's apologizing to the kids.
Yeah, he's failed everything, let the mom die, and he doesn't know what. And he's like, I guess this is it.
He's like, I bombed the interview.
But at least we can die together. And the little girl's like, I don't think so. And she like reaches in his coat pocket, pulls out his lighter, and then she's dashing off with the sun. And they go and they find...
It's like a rack, like a stand?
Like a souvenir stand. And they're selling like plush animals, including plush bees.
Including plush bees, which I've never seen at a zoo, but they're selling little plush bees.
So they light these up with the lighter, and the whole stand is going up. And they're... those like puppet things, it's like... It's got like the head of a crocodile, and you pull the thing at the bottom, and the crocodile opens its mouth, and it's on a long stick. So they grab some of those and start like picking up the burning plushies. They're swinging them around like torches, and the bees are freaking. They hate smoke.
And meanwhile, sort of that whole kind of souvenir area is just kind of like going up in flames. So it's creating this big sort of smoke cloud kind of over them.
And the animals don't like it either. Like the zebras are like going up on their hand, like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of commotion going on with the animals.
But it is effective in the bees.
Yeah, they start dropping.
And it's like a kind of a carpet of bees that they're walking over as the like music swells.
And they're looking around, and people are sort of shambling around. There are obviously people on the ground, and the kids are sort of heroically kind of like arm in arm walking back to where their dad was.
And then actually the interviewer had died, been stung by the bees, and he's like, there's a pool of blood all around him and dead bees here, there, and everywhere. And the little girl's like, hey, what blood type do you think that is? And the little boy's like, I don't know. And she says, B positive.
So at that point, I'm thinking the wrong family member died.
And then it's like roll credits.
Yeah. And so like the, little opening credits. And then we even get, for good measure, actual politicians at the time, like Henry Hyde, the congressman, or like Mark Warner from Virginia. And they're talking very seriously about, we expect killer bees to infiltrate America within the next 5 to 8 years. Mm-hmm. Those credits go for a long time because they really show like news footage and like some statistics. They really kind of like back end a lot of quote unquote facts.
We were Googling this a little afterwards. It is kind of interesting that the threat of killer bees was largely mitigated through the efforts of scientists who just interbred them, like would remove the queens from their colony and like replace them with more milder American bees and stuff like this. And so like killer bees, like they largely still exist. It's just that the bloodlines have been like mellowed out with regular bees since then.
So it's less of a BS thing and more of a success story.
Yeah, but also I don't think the killer bees were ever as aggressive as they're portrayed in this movie.
I'm certain that's true, but it's interesting to know that in fact there was something done to actually make them less of a problem. Who knew?
Yeah, so like going into this movie, I'm like, a Fox TV presentation or whatever. I'm like, this is gonna suck and it's gonna be real low rent or whatever. But man, it was, astonishing that the scene at the baseball stadium, the scene at the zoo, it's like there's some big production value in this thing.
You couldn't say it's low rent when it had set pieces like that, that you just wouldn't expect from a made-for-TV movie. I don't know how they pulled it off.
Kudos to your professor, Gary Sherman.
Gary Sherman, who knew? I don't know why he never brought this up in class. Seriously, it was only ever when I worked on Poltergeist 3. Do you remember I worked on Poltergeist 3?
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for finding that movie for us to enjoy.
Well, you're welcome.
Now, to wrap things up, I do something around here. It's called plugs and rants. So, like anything you want to promote, or if you have anything weighing on you that you really want to just get off your chest, now's the time. I'll go first. Right. I want to plug this movie that's out now. It's called Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I did in the past work for the writer-director Andy DeYoung, who is like the coolest, nicest guy imaginable. So just like check out that movie if you have the opportunity. It's a great time. And then my rant, I thought I'll kind of get into like the thesis behind this podcast really is that Blu-rays and 4Ks are better than streaming, and here's 5 reasons why. 1, the bit rate is more important than the definition. So even if like you're streaming something, it's like 4K definition or whatever. If the bit rate isn't high enough, then it doesn't matter because it's not refreshing 24 times a second, and you're getting like you're getting artifacting. Like you notice it a lot in like darker areas of the screen. You'll get the weird squares and stuff. And especially with water, I found on streaming, you never have a high enough bit rate for the water to look convincing. It's always going to be weird artifacting going on with water.
Very true.
Netflix is usually 16 megabytes per second bit rate, and Apple claims to get up to 40 megabytes per second. Blu-rays are generally 40 megabytes per second. 4K discs are between 72 and 144 megabytes per second, and it's consistent throughout the whole movie. So you're not going to get sections like you do on streaming where if your internet's a little slower or if the servers at your streaming company are overloaded or something, parts of it aren't going to look quite as good as others. With the disc, it's always going to be great. The difference in audio is even starker because streaming compresses the audio so much, so it's never going to sound as good as it does on the disc. Number two, there are more and more movies that used to be available on streaming and aren't anymore. I read that Netflix no longer has any movies made before the 1970s on there. You know how many movies, how many great movies were made before the 1970s? Most of them. Number three, some movies have been censored or altered for their streaming versions, and you can only see the original movie on home video, or if you're lucky enough to catch a repertory screening, like one that Sam might show at the American Cinemateque. Major recent example was The French Connection. Did you see about that at all?
No, I mean, I've run it a few times recently.
You that would have been the real movie.
Okay.
Every streaming service has this censored version where in the first few minutes of the movie, Popeye Doyle uses a very vile racial slur, and that's been cut out of the movie. But that's like, not only is it very accurate to what would be said by a NYPD detective in the early 70s, but it's like it's an early instance of characterization, because you're supposed to realize, oh, this guy he's demented, he's a bad cop, he's a bad dude. Yeah. And without that, I think you would still get that, but that's a major piece of early characterization that kind of sets your mood for the movie.
That's information worth having.
Yeah,
this person thinks this way.
Yeah, and then there's sometimes like even great episodes of TV shows that get removed from the streaming lineup. Nathan Fielder just pointed out recently that a really great episode of Nathan For You has been pulled from streaming. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has had multiple episodes pulled from streaming. It's just because like some dork is like, oh, this offends my sensibilities or whatever. It's like, get over yourself.
It's very tough. If like you want completeness, if you want to watch a whole series, it's not guaranteed that you will have that, and it's not always obvious either that they've pulled an episode. Sometimes they'll just, when you're looking at the listing of the episodes, if they're numbered, they'll renumber them to make it look like they didn't skip one.
Sneaky devious. My fourth reason is that I think there's a greater emotional connection to something tactile. Like, I think we like things that we can feel and look at and hold in our hands.
You have a wonderful disc collection.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun to look at the artwork and like read what's on the back of the box and like show people, oh, check this out and stuff like that. My fifth reason is sometimes the internet is down and your discs don't care if the internet is down. They still will play. My sixth reason is if you're interested in bonus features like commentaries or interviews or making up features or deleted scenes, you'll only get that with the physical releases. An exception, there's a Criterion channel. They got some great bonus features. That's far and away the best streaming service, in my opinion.
Well, if they're doing that kind of stuff, then come on.
And my seventh reason is that disc players are funny little guys, and you get to feed them the disc, and it's like it makes them happy. It's like it's their food. And so that was more than 5 reasons, but I got it's something I care about. And look, this only really matters if you're into movies. Like, I get a lot of people aren't into movies, or like they think of it as like a passive like entertainment thing, whereas like you and I, we love movies and we want like a great experience when we watch a movie. But like, don't come at me for liking movies. Like, people come at me, they're like, oh, why do you have like all these discs? Why do you go to the video store? It's like, you can just watch it on streaming. It's like, well, this is something I care about. Like, I don't come after other people for liking baseball cards. Like, people are allowed to like what they like. I'm not coming after you. You don't come after me.
And I mean, I don't know. Because I appreciate it the same way you do. So I'm biased, but I don't see what's so strange. Like, to me, it's strange that anyone would think it's strange.
Thank you for saying that. All right. Do you have any plugs or rants? Do you want to get
yeah. I mean, come on down to the American Cinemateque this June. We're doing our 3rd or so annual Bleak Week. That is one of our most
depressing stuff.
That is one of our most popular blocks of programming. If you are on any kind of antidepressants,
I am.
Don't skip your dosage before attending one of our screenings. These movies will break you. You gave us a nice shout out at the start of the show. Said you think pretty well of us as far as repertory places, which I appreciate. I feel like the American Cinemateque is kind of the biggest rep house in town that you don't know about. And that's not everybody, of course, but Tarantino's venues get a lot of
they get a lot of ink,
a lot of attention, a lot of ink. Vidiot's has as well, which good for them, but it's also surprising they've almost kind of skyrocketed to like the Tarantino level in terms of conversation. And then meanwhile, we've got our 3 venues, and like, I don't know, we just kind of do our thing. You don't always like hear about us, but I mean, Bleak Week is going to 7 or so cities across the country, and then jumping the ocean to the UK as well. So it's a big deal. We're a big deal, and nothing for nothing, but I'm a union projectionist. Can't say the same for the people at Tarantino's venues. They do great work. They don't necessarily have unions over there. Just saying. Plugs and chugs. So that's my plug. For my chug, I'm going to chug this Dasani.
Chug, 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 chug. Holy cow. Let me see that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was 16.9 fluid ounces.
That was a chug, all right. Plugs and chugs.
No. Rants was the other thing. Rants. Like if
I already chugged, so.
Yeah, that's fine then. Okay. Thank you so much, Sam. And I had a great time. Thank you for watching this movie with me. And let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, it's good. I feel kind of bloated now with that chug, but it was otherwise pretty good.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Forgotten Video Store. Please do me a quick favor and rate and review the show on your podcast listening app of choice if you've got a minute. Do you have like a weird friend or family member who's too into movies? Go ahead and tell them about this podcast. I bet they'd like it. I'll be back in 2 weeks to discuss a romantic comedy from the early 2000s starring a 2-time Academy Award winner and an 8-time WWE Championship winner. What a matchup!